Oh, hello. Welcome back to the next chapter. Been similarly incredibly busy, enjoying my life, as I always do. So, yeah, let's get into it. Chapter 25 The Outlawed. By the light of the next day, Hvitborn woke and remembered everything he'd seen in the vision he was shown. And now, in memory, he saw that it was not so clear as he thought it had been. In the moment, everything felt cogent and stable, and now he remembered it as a hazy and ill-defined and shifting ever. The thoughts were still there, though, the conversation, the lessons of war. The strange sense of connection he felt with everything around him echoed powerfully in his mind, like a wild music that was sung by everyone and was his to hear. How are your dreams, laddie? He looked at the man and saw him still sitting where he had been. When are we set for judgment? Ragnar opened his mouth to respond to a different question, but stopped himself. I ken as much as ye do here, he said with a shrug. Could be tomorrow for all I'm told. They brought us food, though, so that's a sign. What? He looked and saw that two plates were on the benches, and he gratefully picked one up. Did I thrash in my sleep? He started to eat the meat and bread from the plate. Nay, you were quiet and peaceful as a lamb. I thought maybe the mushrooms didn't do a thing and that you'd simply gone off sleeping. Were there any things you saw? As way of response, Hvitborn nodded. Aye. Well, there's little to do but wait. There's little to do but wait for the judgment, which I'm sure will be fair. Though I think still that fair means a beheading. I've been praying all night. Hvitborn looked around. It was still locked away. Well, aye. God and Christ will not solve your problems for ye. He only cares for your soul. Wait. I thought. Then what's prayer even for? Guts, I'll never understand you Christians. Ragnar laughed. Aye, well, there's precious little time to try and persuade you now. If you find yourself feeling feared, I can offer you some comfort that may do to calm the soul. But I doubt it. You will have the fire of war burning in you all the time, laddie. That is the mind of a warrior. He screwed up his expression. Wait, what did you say? I have the fire in me? That's what you said right now, isn't it? Are you sure I didn't talk when I was in my dreams? Aye. What did you see? Hvitborn smiled. I was shown again the weavings of the Nornir. How strange a thing it is. Them Norns are your masters of fate, are they nae? You know the future new, do you, laddie? No, I do not know what will happen. Though I think if we get from here, going raiding would be the best thing for us. Is there only ever one thing you can think about? God, it's nae overly a bad plan. You get me out of this and we'll go raiding, you and me. He nodded to him. I think Bodil's dead. Ragnar's expression darkened. A woman like that is not going to die as something so simple as a smack across the face, laddie. It'd be well not to speak such and put the idea out of your mind. I'm sorry, Ragnar, but I admit I don't know. I'll have to check and see if she has a broken wrist too. Laddie, I'm done talking about that. Hvitborn heard something at the door. Keys then jingled. I think we're both done talking for a while. You both come with us. You are to appear before the king. Aye, here we go. Let this go done with, if done it is what it's with. Hvitborn looked at him cockeyed. What? Never you mind. Let's nae keep a king waiting, shall we? They both stood and went out to the open air beyond and saw that it was a group of 12 men who'd come to collect them. 6 were of the Swedish men, and the others were all Haralds. Hvitborn and Ragnar knew them each, but their friends were not among them. They walked together along the path that was protected by their retainers and made for the hall. On the way, they passed by the stables they'd done their crime at. In passing, Hvitborn looked to the stall where Bodil had fallen and looked for any evidence of blood, but encouragingly saw none. He still was not convinced that what he'd seen in the vision was all entirely true. When inside the hall, they stood before the table where the King Jacob, Svein, and their own Lord Harold all sat solemnly. Both men stood tall and proud, not wanting to show fear or weakness before their lord, and those he called equals. Ragnar Kilmanuig of the land of Scots, said the administrator to the side of the king, and the Hvitborn of the Norse. This name drew a side glance from Svein, but he said nothing. You are both here accused of murdering my man. Do you deny these crimes? The question was asked by the king himself, in Norse. They looked between them. I do not deny that this happened. Aye, and me too, Adam. And was this attack unprovoked? Asked Harold. No, lord, it wasn't unprovoked. The king squinted, but said nothing. Then you will declare your actions for what was done. I saw the men Alfa Eriksson, Gerdiorn Morthen, and Ovind Pavalstatir. These are the men you killed. The names were too many for either to have memorized so quickly, so he just continued. I saw these men, you say, aggressing to my friend the Bodil. Do you ken what's become of her? Ragnar asked for Hvitborn. She was taken immediately to the healers. Keep on with your story. The words comforted both men greatly, and they visibly relaxed. I saw them bearing on her, and went to remove her from the place. Then they attacked me and Bodil, and I had to defend myself. I killed Ulf, and the second man I don't know who he was. And I killed the last with me bow, seeing my friend here were in need of rescue. I knew nothing of what happened, but it were in my power, and so my place to help and act for him. Harold nodded. The men you claim were attacking you and harassing your friend, are all of them dead? How do you know that I can believe your words for this? Asked the king. I swear by Christ our Lord, and will do so on the Bible. They nodded at this. What about you? Are you saved in the faith of the one true God? Asked the king. The eyes of all fell to Hvitborn. He bore the looks of them all with strength and resolute stoicism. Harold looked at him with a warning in his eye. I respect and revere the gods of my father and my mother, my lands and my ancestors. The king breathed in long through his nose. Heathen. This thing I understand, though I don't accept. I am but the second Christian king of this land as Fitjod. And I have made it my mission to spread the teachings of the Christ to all within my lands. Your defiance of the true God could be taken as a reason you killed my men. Hvitborn looked at Harold and understood something all at once. Harold was in an impossible situation now. He knew that the standard punishment for a crime such as this would be for the accused to pay a weregild for the dead they'd slain and continue their place in the army. This is, after all, what he'd assumed he'd be asked to do. But Harold's men had slain the men of the king. He was in the land beseeching for aid and allyship. It would most likely end for them in a beheading, regardless of what the laws were to say. That being said, Harold also had to walk the razor's edge, as the story would get out. These were his own men, protecting another of his own. He could not be cruel or overly harsh with them, lest he relinquish the hold he had over the men. We're warriors, Hvitborn then said, quieting the hall. We only know how to fight. I saw her accosted by other men I knew not. Then I defended myself from their attack. I would have defended any of my own with that same ferocity and without fear. I would gladly kill those men again if I thought they threatened any of mine. That is the way of warriors. We have spent years fighting. It's what we know. A savage without God would answer thus. Those soldiers were members of my army. The king stood and pointed at Hvitborn. An army our lord is here to ask my favor of sanctioning for his wars to the west. You'll be hanged for what you've done. These words penetrated deep to the bottom of each man's mind. Lord King, Ragnar started. Enough, the man said. He was in a rage, obviously, and seemed like he could not be made to see reason. Your Majesty, Harold said. The king turned and looked at Harold, though he seemed to take heed of the man's calmness. He sat down again at the seat and put his hands on the table. Yes, he said, decorum returning to his manner. These men have committed crimes on your land. At our council and meeting, I know this is and will be delicate, but let me propose a punishment that I feel would fit their case. The payment of a weregild and to outlaw them. Thus, they would have to leave these lands and never return, and there would be a just restitution for the deaths they cost. The king seemed to consider this. Execution is quicker, cleaner. What is more is that it's what my men want to see. You are both being demanded dead. If I let them go, then tension between our army would be too great. How could they ever be asked to fight together? He asked forcefully. Or indeed my own men, were I to show that I prioritize the comfort of another's army over the legal state of mine. I cannot be seen to show your men and their sensitivities favor above mine. I'd find myself without any warriors, and there will be no war on Magnus, especially when they have stated that they were merely defending another of my warriors, and they were attacked first. That can't be proven. Neither can your men's innocence. I wonder why this one man would antagonize and start a blade fight with 3 foreign men, knowing that he was alone and knowing that he'd be killed. He wasn't alone. This one killed another of my men as well. From what I understand, he shot an arrow to save this man's life. That's something any of us can understand. I'd kill whosoever I had to protect those I love. You want to partner with me in my conquests? You should know me to be a fair man. A just man, who deals with the law as it is best to do so. The king did not miss the implication of the statement. If Harold's perspective on this was the best interpretation of the law, then any deviation of or derivation on his part would be less than such, therefore showing him to be a lesser king. Hvitbjorn's eyes widened some at the skill at Harold's political maneuvering. And the law is an important thing in my lands as well. These men are murderers. You are right, however, that I will grant. For the sake of shared unity between us and our wars to come. The king took a deep breath. For all Harold's advocation, it was the king's decision what befell them. I then say that these men are hereby now and forever forward outlawed. You are both expected to pay the weregild for the 3 dead men and should leave after you do. What will the weregild be? Asked Ragnar. The king looked to the attendant, who'd annoyed Harold so instantly. Each man, worthing of the experience and the fighting they were ready to provide in the future, their debt thus accrued should be half their weight each in silver. As soon as they heard the price, they both gawked at the vast sum that was asked. They'd grown rich in Miklagard, but that was still a lot of money. Won't be enough, Hvitbjorn said, for anyone. He thought a moment and looked around at all present, the attendant and about 2 guards per lord. Even Svein had his retainers there. What is it? What do you mean, accused? Asked the Swedish king, addressing Hvitbjorn as accused instead of condemned, was a good sign at least. Look, Hvitborn breathed quietly to himself. Lend me your tongue for this moment. My lords, can we have the room cleared of all but you three and me and this man? They looked between them in shock and disbelief. Yes, said Harold. What? Now? Said Annon's attendant, to which he looked and nodded. That is not your decision to make, he replied. But, your majesty, I am your attendant and I... Oh, no, you are right. But while you speak on my behalf sometimes, you don't ever talk for me. All my men get out, Svein said. He had a look of curiosity in his eye. Harold grinned at him. And mine! But not you two, White Baron Ragnar, you stay! He could see there was something coming from Hvitborn, and his own curiosity was piqued. The king had little choice now. Fine, all of you get out. Let's at least hear this. If there's any commotion, or I order it, come in and kill them both where they are. Understood? He asked loudly to forestall a question the man was going to ask. Understood! He asked more softly when the man stopped and stood in silence. Yes, my liege, he said meekly and turned to leave. When the room was cleared of all but the 5 men, all eyes were turned to Hvitborn. He had asked for their private attention and had it now. What? Asked the king. What the hell could you possibly offer us now beyond what we have sentenced you to? You need to do more. He started realizing that he was somewhat shocked at himself for speaking so boldly before them all at all. Both will need to do more here, I think. Harold, the rest of the men will see it that you ordered us to be an unfair sentence for but protecting another of them. And King Anund, you will look weak for not having us killed outright. I propose a different route that may work to satisfy all. He breathed in deeply. You, king, pay the Were-Guild oath. The king actually laughed. You're mad. Aye, lad, I think he's right. I may be, but let me finished. You pay the Were-Guild, and say that it was we who paid it. Then order that we be killed. Also, what? Ragnar said loudly. I don't disagree, the king replied the king. But we don't die. We, he turned to Ragnar to quiet him, we are going to escape. And why would I allow that? Because that's how you're going to get the alliance between the armies that you need. As it stands, if we are let off with mercy, your men won't be happy and won't ally with Harold's force. If we're sentenced harshly, then Harold, our men will not be happy with you, but will take it out on the king's here's men. Harold was nodding along. So we make it look like we're both doing what was best for us. We both win, Harold said. We make it look like you gave the men just a just sentence that your men will be happy with. But won't it all be undone when they find out I helped you escape? It would, but you won't publicly aid us. That will be the rumor that circulates, though. Now the king nodded. I think I see. Everyone will know that I ordered a hard punishment, but those who want to believe will think that Harold aided in the flight. But that still doesn't explain why I pay the Were-Guild. Why should I? By Odin, may they listen. Lend me strength, Hvitborn thought, because you have to answer for the insult paid to me, Ragnar, and most of all Bodil, by your own men, Lord King. That was not the conduct of proper soldiers on a king's peace, and it will not be our place to pay down for their attacks. What if this little gambit of yours doesn't work? What if it's too much for either army to sustain and still fight together? Sail apart. Give the men time to think on what happened, and they will blame who they will. But let each man think what he'd most rather think about our sentences and saving. For Ragnar and me, we will fly. We'll be put onto a boat and sail from here with great haste. You will never have to see us again, and you can preserve the strength this union both have formed. Part of him still could not believe that all of that had come from his mouth. I want Harold to pay the Were Guild, the king said. His men, his payment. They were your men, Hvitborn cut in angrily. Guts! I would have been happy to simply join in your campaigns and raid the Danish coast, but we were attacked. You think this is because I decided to fight 3 men without cause? He asked, pulling down his shirt to show the huge slash across his chest. You pay now. We will remake that money in a week of raiding. You're the half-brother of the good King Yaroslav, are you not? Asked Harold. Yes, what of that? He has become my father-in-law by my wife. That makes you my uncle. Harold stood and put a hand on his arm ring. The stillness and quiet that fell over them was palpable. I will swear, by our joined blood and the love we both share for our shared king, that I bless this plan of Hvitborn. I vouch for him. Let him be outlawed and free to go do as he will. He will certainly never be allowed in your Svitjod anymore. The king nodded ponderously. All right, if you will allow that I will be paid of all the raiding you do along the Danish coast until the Were Guild is paid full. Hvitborn rolled his eyes. No! Harold rolled his eyes. No, you have to be complicit entirely or there can be no deal. Accept it that you will get back what you pay and 10 times more when we have taken the throne of the North, or our wise friend here has made a fair offer that you should take. But we must be swift. That is so, Hvitborn said. You must announce that we are both to be executed, and then we will make our flight. Tell no one, King of the Swedes. Let the whole thing go to Harold and my work. And Lord, he paused and looked at Harold. Hatred boiled up in him as he did. You two must be clean of this. Put my friends to the task, and we will be gone. Make a ship ready. That we can take easily, and we will go. Without death. Without death. You will kill no other Swedish for as long as you live, the king said, resolute. Aye. Very well. Swear it by your arm ring. Clearly the king knew well the customs held ancient and hallowed. Any vow sworn must be accomplished, or they who swore can never enter to Valhall. Hvitborn sighed loudly, then put his right hand onto the arm ring on his left wrist. I swear, by all the gods, my lord, my parentage in this sacred ring, that I will never kill another Swede, for so long as I am alive. He looked over to Ragnar. Oh, for God's sake. He put his right hand over his cross and held it tight. And I swear before Christ Almighty never to shed the blood of a Swedish man again either. The king nodded contemplatively. These terms are acceptable. Get ready, all of you. We start now. Guards, he called. And they burst in, ready to slaughter everyone within, but calm when they saw the king's hand. Take the prisoners back to the room where they were held in. Herman, come here. The attendant came over as beckoned. It is my determination that they will, in addition to a wergild and official outlawry, be hung from a tree as means of execution tomorrow morning. That should be plenty of time for you both to make peace with God. But that's not the law, Harold said loudly and stood. This is an insult to their honor. That is the decision, the king said, standing and facing Harold. And my word is final. Take them. Will you at least allow that my men shall take them to their place to wait? The king made a grand show of taking this into thought. Very well. Take them now. I want them out of my sight. Dismissed. He turned and went to his attendant and guards, leaving Harold and his men alone in the room. Harold and Svein looked at each other, and then Harold looked at Hvitborn and insufferably winked. Hvitborn rolled his eyes, but Harold and Svein walked over to where Ragnar, and he stood. Ah, you saved yourself today, you did. Good for you. I think we should walk you out to the room. Prepare for what is next. Harold walked past them and went to the entrance, then knocked at the door. Lord Harold, said Stephanos as the door opened. Steffi, Ragnar said as he approached the door. He's a sight to make a man cry there, laddie. Oh, God almighty, I thought I were about to get the axe not an hour ago. He breathed out, and a nervous laugh escaped with it. Relax, laddie, Stephanos said with a grin, and Ragnar crouched slightly, then leaned in and swept him up in a big hug. All right, both of you, quit celebrating. The work has yet to start, and we have only this night to speak on what we have to make sure you do for us. Harold continued to walk past the display and of relief and out into the bright cold of the Swedish night. There were many other men around as they five made their way to the shack where they were being held. They passed without word or incident, each looking around to the men who wanted to fight with the men who'd killed their brethren. Hvitborn walked with his head held high and shoulders back, but did not try to stare anyone down as he went. The last thing he wanted to do was to start a fight. Surrounded as they were, his eyes did, however, drift off to the right, seeing the path to the water where the ships were. He knew he would be given a ship and a crew of men he trusted. Of all the things Harold was, he was not a liar, especially not when it came to his warriors. I won't be one of his warriors after this. I'm afraid of his army now, that's sure. They arrived at the hut, and Hvitborn and Ragnar went in first. Harold followed after. Somewhere along the way, they'd noticed that Svein had gone off to do something else, so now it was all but the four of them. But Stephanos stood outside and beckoned some other of Harold's men to him to keep guard. Obviously, I'm not going to tie you up or chain you, no point. You'll have to just wait. He looked towards the barred windows beyond and squinted. It's so damn bright. Spent too long in the desert lands. We'll wait for the darkest part of the night. Not that that'll be an easy to identify. And you both will be sent on your way. There shall be a crew waiting for you. Your friends that you fought with all those years. And food and water and money enough. Thank you, Lord, said Ragnar. Hvitborn just continued to stare at him with defiance in his eye. Yes, yes, your clear hatred. You'll be free of me soon enough, white bear. It was time for honesty. You know, I am often occupied with doing much. I'm busy, not blind. There's something behind your eyes for me, I know. Maybe I robbed you of a chance for killing sometime. Maybe I caused the death of someone you loved. Maybe I killed someone you wanted to kill. Who the hell cares? I'm saving you both in this. Bullshit. This compromise was my idea. I'm saving us, and you insolent child of a man. Hvitborn thumped his chest as he spoke, aggravating the wound there. Harold was taken aback by the outburst. Well, now you'll be gone, won't you? And you can drink on that festering, seething hate alone. For all the good you'll get from it. He grumbled the last. Now don't listen to him. We're thankful for his chance, Lord. We'll get ourselves gone and be far by the time any thinks to come looking for us. And where will you go? Well, much have I thought about that question exactly, but remember in Miklagard where I asked you to return home? I may go all the way north and see homeland. To me homeland. Harold nodded. That is a far-flung and distant land. That's perfect. Get there and stay away for some time. This will sort out itself in time. Don't worry. So we wait, asked Ragnar. You do. In the darkest part of night, someone will come and knock. I'll leave 6 guards here to make certain it is only ours who come to interrupt your sleep this night. He paused and thought. I suppose you'll need many to crew a ship. The smallest ship I saw there would take. Hvitborn thought for a moment. 13. Fitting. That's an old tradition. All right. So it's you and whom else? Hafelt, Brynolf, Inga, Niels, Olaf, Harold Strongarm, Bodil. He said, looking to see if he could gauge any response from Harold's expression. He showed nothing, only nodded. Who else do you think? I'll send Sven and Eric. Those two have been speaking much about their want to go home, and loudly. Then Nathan, I think Eiford would go too. Give me time to find you a crew. Tonight, when comes the knock, be ready. Where are your things? On the ship. They both said, nodding to each other. Fine, that. You'll have to take the things you want. The ship you will take will be curiously stocked and well ready to leave. I'll make sure that the guards on dock are ours, and they'll only just miss you slipping away. Now, it might look suspicious if the king doesn't send out a party of warriors to catch you. It won't be our men who fail you to bring you back, surely, because that won't be untrusted. You will be pursued by men who don't know you and are supposed who don't know you are supposed to escape, and they will try and kill you if they see you. You both have sworn oaths never to kill a Swede, so your only course is to outsail them. That we can do. Once we get out to the Baltic, we will have any direction to go. Perhaps we could make an indication that you could make an indication that we'd sail straight east, go back to Holmgard. They might believe it. They will, especially if they think they are carrying a missive from me to my father-in-law Yaroslav calling for your arrest. That is a good plan. And will you go south? Straight south. We will make for the North Sea to sail through the Danelands and to the coasts of Norway and then perhaps Scotland. That is all well. Get ready and rested. And pray. Aye, sir, Ragnar said. Yes, Hvitborn said, looking upon the man. The knock came, hours later, and somehow both Hvitborn and Ragnar were sleeping when it came. They did, however, rise to standing before the door opened. As much as they thought Harold had been telling the truth, it had crossed their minds that they may have chosen to have them killed in the night regardless. Ragnar, are you there? Asked a familiar voice. Steffi! He pulled the door open and saw Stephanos standing there in his full northerner's armor. Behind him were Hafald, Inga, and Olaf. Come on. Come on. Let's get to the ship, Hafald said quietly. Harold and Niels are all there already waiting for us, with some others. Hvitborn stood and got out of the room and into the heavier snow that was falling this late. Who? He was hushed by Hafald. They were in a street near the hall and would be easily seen. They had chosen a time when many would be sleeping to go, but still needed to be quiet. Lord Harold mentioned some that he thought would accept to join. They know that we're leaving this place and the army, right? That we'll be outcast from the rest, maybe for life. Aye, well, life is better than death, isn't it? Hafeld said, looking upset with something. They all ran quietly from the place to the dock without meeting anyone from the King Anun's army. There were some few of Harold's men who saw them go by and said nothing. Many even nodded and held out a fist to them. It had become well known that what Ragnar and he had done, an act they will all have approved of. Those on watch tonight would be reprimanded as a show, as would be necessary to keep the peace, but that was nothing compared to their deaths. They descended the worn earthen path to the dock and saw a small ship being loaded hastily by half a dozen men. Is Bodil there? Ragnar asked, not seeing her immediately. Get on board, Inga said. She's coming with us. We'll explain. But right now, we need to go. Ragnar grunted angrily, and they kept going. It's all here, the burly Sven said as they approached. He had his sword drawn and was beckoning them to hurry with his left hand. There, indeed, seemed to be no more that was needed to pack. What about our things? Asked Hvitborn. I got all of that from the longship, Inga said. I keep track of these things, so I knew where to grab for you both. We have now to go, and we'll have to be rowing all night to get as far as we can. They all ran along the dock and jumped onto the boat. We're untied. We are untied, Harold said. Start pushing. He pulled up an oar and pushed it from a piling on the dock. They all picked up oars and pushed until the ship floated out onto the gray water under the gray sky into the cold snowfall of the bright night. Steer us to the right, Eric said back to Olaf, who'd taken the steerboard. What are you doing here, Roman? Asked Hvitborn. Me? I am here. Yes, but what are you doing here? He looked back to the dock behind them to ensure none were raising an alarm or following them. Harold thinks it's best. Not much love among the other army. Love? You mean acceptance? Yes, Hvitborn sighed. So he may as well send you with the rest of us outcasts, is that it? Yes, he said in the same tone, and the rest stifled laughs. There are other Romans here from Midgard. What about them? Not the same trust Harold has with me. Hvitborn nodded. Some were feeling, I think, that you were getting too much trust. Is that it? Well then, outcast it is. Oh gods, did you remember my axe? As he said it, though, he looked down and saw it, right there along the center of the ship, and sighed with total relief. Gods! We did not get gone and leave your lady left behind, Niels said. Even Hvitborn joined in the laughter at his relief. Ragnar did not join in. He looked to the water dejectedly. She's dead, isn't she? He asked. She's not here, and no one has mentioned her. Where is Bodil? He asked forcefully. She's here, Inga said. She put her hand onto a cloth-wrapped and rope-tied bundle. Ragnar looked at the body and marveled that he hadn't seen her yet. We're taking her with us, Hufwald said. We'll put her to a funeral right when we have time. Ragnar had tears in his eyes. It won't be enough. It never was. He cried, unhidden, as they all pulled their oars with as much speed and silence as they could balance, and they fled the city of Sigtuna. That is the end of the chapter. The next chapter, well, I'll get to it next time, but yeah. Next time is chapter 26. I did a lot of research about the concept of outlawry and everything. Apparently, if you were outlawed in a country, and this started in Iceland, I believe, if you were outlawed, it was legal to hunt you, like for sport. Wild times in the past. One of the things that I really tried to get across in this book is that this is an alien land, and that these are aliens. Like, these are not people you're going to understand. They have such alien everything, concepts, all of it is just so wildly foreign to us. And it's very, very interesting to go back and read my own work. Rather liking it, actually. So thank you all for listening, and good evening.